I've been feeling a little bit stressed, but I'm always one to take the goodness out of a situation. And actually, what I'm dealing with at the moment is highlighting one fundamental truth that I have learned in the 7 years that I've been living here in Italy. And that is just how valuable connection really is. Now, the thing that's stressing me out at the moment is that I placed an order with Zara here in Italy last week, and it's for an event that I have this week. So there was a little bit of urgency to the order. And so I placed the order and had it delivered to the Zara store because I just thought, it's better. I can be sure it's going to arrive and I can just go and collect it when I've got a moment. Now, I went to the Zara store at the weekend. I'd received all the notifications to say that my order was waiting for me, except when I got to the store and I showed my QR code, the sales assistant hurried off to see if she could find my order. And she came back and was like, your order's not here. And I'm a little bit like, well, I'm not just going to accept that and leave the store. I was like, what do you mean it's not here? I've got emails, I've got text messages, I've got notifications on the app to tell me my delivery is waiting for me in store. So she got another colleague to double check and no, they couldn't find my order. Now, this was Sunday. So on a Sunday, customer care was closed. There was absolutely nothing the store could do for me because their online operations are managed entirely separately from their retail stores. And so I left the shop feeling super deflated. I didn't have what I felt was a very empathetic customer experience. But that aside, I was like, what am I supposed to do? I've got this event. I need this outfit. I've ordered these clothes. Where is my package? So this morning, Monday morning, at the time of filming, as soon as it hit 8:30 in the morning, I was straight onto the WhatsApp phone number for Zara, messaging them about my order. Now, there's something for you to know. Zara customer care here in Italy does not have a telephone number or an email address. The only way you can contact them is by their WhatsApp and website chats, both of which are managed by an AI bot, or via their social media platforms. Now, I have to be honest with you, I've spent this morning speaking with a bilingual bot. And as much as I'm super impressed by artificial intelligence and the technology, I have to be honest, it gives you a very impersonal experience because every single answer that it gave me to my questions was just a cut and paste cookie cutter answer based on the keywords that I had mentioned and the appropriate response it felt best to give. There wasn't any empathy. I didn't feel like I was being listened to or going to be reassured about my order. I didn't once get a sorry from this bot. And even when they supposedly transferred me to an agent, again, it felt a very impersonal experience. And funnily enough, because I didn't get a fast enough response via the WhatsApp route, I did the same kind of communication using their website chat. And the way that the agent opens the chat was word for word exactly the same via the WhatsApp. The only difference was the change in name. So it makes me even more kind of dubious that this is a real person. And if it is, then they really just copied and pasted the prompts that they have in front of them. And there wasn't really any kind of interaction. Now, what this has shown me fundamentally, first of all, is that people get so hung up about artificial intelligence. Oh, it's going to take jobs. It's going to replace careers. We're kind of doomed. But I have to be honest with you, there are some things that artificial intelligence cannot replace. And today was evident of that. It cannot replace human connection. Humans crave connection, particularly in moments when they need some assistance or some help. They don't want to talk to a chat bot that is not going to necessarily give you the answers that you need. And it's interesting because how this ties back into Italy is that all the time that I've lived here, I have been acutely aware of just how important connection really is. Now, when I moved here to Italy, I understood about the importance of connection. I'd done networking with my business back in the UK. I'd understood the power of building your contacts, but really Italy taught me just how valuable it is. And I'm almost embarrassed to say that at the beginning, I used to find the way that business was conducted here, especially in the South, really, really old fashioned. Like I would watch people making in-person visits to companies to build connections and to develop their business. I would see how people wouldn't necessarily make contact initially by an email. It might be by a telephone call, but then it would immediately be followed up by an in-presence meeting. It wasn't done the way that I had been used to creating contacts in the UK, where you would make contacts through social media and email. And of course, yes, at some point you would meet them in person, but it wouldn't be from the very, very beginning necessarily. And so I look back now on those moments that I've witnessed in the course of 7 years I've lived here. And I have to be honest, that's the kind of connection that grows businesses and builds long-lasting connections, not technology, not artificial intelligence. And I feel like I can really appreciate it now, because business is done differently here in Italy, from north to south to central to the islands. And I think here in the south, there is so much importance placed on building those long-lasting connections and bonds that it's almost considered strange to create connections in any other way other than meeting somebody face to face. And as much as I used to think this was very, very outdated, there is so much goodness contained within those moments. And when you do spend enough time living here in Italy, you really do understand how important those connections really are. And you understand that everything that you do here in Italy will be made so much easier if you have formed connections. Now, because I know firsthand just how important connection really is, I have decided to launch a consulting service. So many of you have asked me for this through DMs and messages on my videos, but I've decided to launch a consulting call for those of you who are seriously interested in moving to Italy, but you have specific questions that perhaps my individual videos cannot answer. I'm going to put a link up here and also below in the show notes to where you can go to find out more information. But specifically, this consulting call will be for about life in Italy in general. So if you have specific questions and queries, I can help you. But in terms of location, specifically for the Salerno province and the Palermo province, because they are parts of Italy that I have direct experience of and contacts within. So I feel like I can help you better and serve you better in those particular areas. But otherwise, if it is just more of a general consultation, then you can ask me all the questions that you have. And if I can't answer you in the call, I will certainly follow up with the answers that you need, because this is it. Connection is this. You don't necessarily want to get your information from a faceless website or from artificial intelligence. You want to speak to somebody who's living here and experiencing life here. And so this is why I've decided to offer this service. And it's so funny how life goes. I felt so stressed about this, but now I'm like, well, every cloud has a silver lining. It's inspired this video. It's inspired me to launch this consulting call service. And also, it's helped me to remember this fundamental lesson. Work on your connections, appreciate the connections you have with people, and honestly, use technology to aid connection, but never use it to replace connection. Because if there's one thing that Italy has shown me, it is just how valuable connection is and how there isn't really any kind of replacement for it. If you've enjoyed this video, check out this one here where I talk about how my opinion of money has changed since living here in Italy. I will see you in the next video.